Today I will be discussing neurons and their functions within the human body. So neurons are specialized cells that work within the nervous system to transmit signals. So think everything that has to do with your sight, your touch, your smell, all those senses, neurons are responsible for those. So neurons are comprised of three parts: the dendrites, the cell body, and the axons. The dendrites are these branch-like structures that reach out and they intercept signals from either other neurons or from the external stimulus, and they send these signals to the cell body where they are interpreted, and they will either be sent to the axon to complete an action potential, or they will be deemed not strong enough. So if they are strong enough for an action potential, this means they reach threshold, and that action potential will travel down the axon. Now the axon is this long strand of this long cellular structure that is able to send a signal further and further down, kind of like a cascade. So the axon is responsible for transmitting the signal further into the body. And axons are actually very long. They can range from a mile long. So imagine you have a neuron in your finger. That neuron's axon will span all the way up to your brain. So how do neurons transmit signals? Well, neurons, like other cells, have a largely negative inside of their cytoplasm, and the outside is mostly more positive. So when a neuron gets ready to reach threshold and complete an action potential, this stimulus will cause the neuron to open its sodium ion channels. So these sodium ion channels will allow sodium to enter the cell, and it will make the inside of the cell more positive than the outside. And if it becomes positive enough, it will reach this period of depolarization where the electrical gradient has been changed. And if it reaches depolarization, the cell is able to complete an action potential. So once the cell completes its action potential, this means that the signal will be transduced, and there will be an interaction, and it will be interpreted. So once that signal has been transduced and the protein gradient has been changed, the cell will now complete its action potential, and then it will work to repolarize and to reach back into its resting state. So to repolarize, the cell will open its potassium ion channels, and potassium will flow out of the cell to bring it back to that mostly negative inside and outside positive. So that's how signals are transmitted. So now how do they spread from one neuron to the next? Well, this is done through chemical signaling. So neurotransmitters are chemicals within the body that bind to receptors on other neurons to transmit a signal further. So in order to do this, a neurotransmitter will be sent from a neighboring neuron cell to another neuron, where it will bind to an extracellular receptor to elicit a response. So neurons and their receptors are selective, so they only can bind to each other. So if enough of a neurotransmitter binds to a receptor, it will create an action potential, and the signal will be further spread. So that's how neurons work within the body. Thank you for watching my video.